How you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today we're checking out the Sandman, Master of Dreams, issue number 1. This is January 1989, and this is Gaiman, Keith, and Drinsberg. I decided to do this comic because Netflix is going to be releasing a Sandman series pretty soon. So, now I'll give you a basis of comparison. I saw that the short trailer and everything looked pretty good. I'm going to do this issue, and then I'm going to do issue 8 because this is the first issue in the series, and issue 8 is the first appearance of Death. One of probably the second most popular character next to Dream, the Sandman. So let's take a look. Okay, this cover is by Dave McKeon, and he does these they're like part sculptures, part paintings, little creepy. I just remember being blown away at the time. And this is actually pre-Vertigo, so this got folded in. It says right here, new format. The new format was a direct-only comic book on better quality paper, and the cover price was $2. But I think the actual regular comics were like $1.25 at the time. I don't know, but they were more expensive, better quality paper, and that was the new format. And the new format eventually became Vertigo. And what is Vertigo? Vertigo is an imprint within DC. So it's DC Comics, but then it was like a little imaginary wall separating it from main DC, and it was more like literary highbrow comics. And but so this is before Vertigo. Let's look at the indicia. Published monthly, 666 Fifth Avenue. We already know the date, so 1988 DC Comics. So this was DC, Johnny DC. This was like insider news. This was the checklist. So let's just out of curiosity, we have the new Sandman. Oh, this is volume 2 of the Sandman. The first Sandman was the Dream Stream with Jack Kirby. It was about a guy who basically more superhero stuff in dreams. And then this references that. Not that brings me. I wonder how they're going to talk about that in the TV show. New Titans. So the Teen Titans was called the New Titans at this point. The Shadow. I showcased the first issue. So I guess I went to issue 20. I thought it was 19. Action Weekly, Unknown Soldier, Animal Man, great comic. Gamma Marauders, I know nothing about. Swamp Thing, Doom Patrol, Power of the Atom, Starman, Adventures of. Okay, this is not the Starman of the. This was the Paul Kupperberg, I think, Starman, and Adventures of Superman 50. So this is everything that came out. See, and this shows you the standard format, new format, deluxe format, available at select outlets, prestige format, graphic novel. So this is a little guide of what's what. Okay, so let's look at the actual comic themselves. So this is drawn by Sam Keith, and those of you who know who Sam Keith is, he got famous doing the Max, which became like a cartoon. I think it was on MTV. And I'm just gonna roughly talk about the story is Stately Old Manor. What year is this? 1916, and you have like this guy who's like a ripoff of Aleister Crowley, and he gets this book, and he does this arcane ritual. So here we just look at this like family house. And again, I'm not going to go through the story because it's really dense, really complicated, and I don't want to take a half hour. But it's really good. I'll just stop. It's a wonderful comic, a wonderful series, really influential. But just look at this artwork. So here we have this guy's story. Child was killed in war, and he's hired a magician to resurrect his son, and here's the magician's son is just witnessing everything. So this guy is what's his name? Roderick Burgess. He's like a goof on Aleister Crowley, and he's using this book, and they're going to summon death, the embodiment of death, and they're going to imprison death and barter to death to get their lives back. And this is probably spoiling the first episode of the show, because this is like right out. The trailer was like these first 10 pages or so. So here they're doing the ritual, and look what shows up. Come. So here in the darkness, come, and this being shows up trapped in this magic circle. And I'm going quick. And look at that. So he's got this horrible mask, this ruby, this bag of sand, and he's trapped. And we got you too. Meet the band that made music matter. And of course they grab all of his trinkets. They grab his ruby, his helmet, and his sandbag. So while his corporeal form is trapped, so they basically strip him, and he has this white alabaster skin. He's not a Caucasian. He's like marble, kind of like the Akasha from Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. The Queen of the Damned, just this white skin. And once he got imprisoned all around the world, various people, and you find out later that they're sensitive to dreams, they just fall into a sleeping sickness and never awake. This is Unity. This is Ellie. Her father carried her to bed, and she never woke up. This guy in Africa, Daniel Bustamante. This is Daniel Bustamante. Unity Kincaid, who becomes an important character later on in the book. And Stefan, I don't know if he comes back. I kind of forget. It's been years since I read this. Then we got Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig. And this is, well, I'm going to spoil it. This is Dream. They didn't capture Death. They captured Dream. And he's just watching from this crystal. They built this crystal to contain him. And every once in a while they would come in and beg him for power. Give me power and I will release you. And he just said, no, patience. He would just sit there like, it can't last forever. And they're getting older and older, and they're trying to figure out who he is. And meanwhile, they're having bad dreams. So the world is going through an epidemic of like bad dreams. Demon King cleared due to lack. So the guy who hired him to resurrect his son, he's on his deathbed. He's pissed off because he gave this guy a lot of money and he didn't do it. So now he's writing, he commits suicide. He leaves a suicide note letting the public know everything that Anthony Burgess did. Anthony Burgess used his magic to clear his name. And his son, the little kid who witnessed it all, he figures out that it's Dream that's in prison. Not, they knew it wasn't Death, but they didn't know who it was. So he's pretty impressed. So now they know they have the King of Dreams in prison. And his son grows up, and he's so here's the son getting older, his father's getting older, and what's going on is these Daniel Bustamante still sleeping. And here we have this. I wonder how they're going to do this in the Netflix show, because this is a mainstream DC comic, meaning it's not Vertigo yet. So it was tied to the regular Superman and Batman appeared in this comic. The Martian Manhunter, you can't get more superheroic than that. But this is Wesley Dodds, the Sandman. So he actually had like a connection to the dream of the Sandman, and supposedly that gave him his precognition of powers, which I thought was a brilliant way to tie them two together. And this, I got to break out this comic. Sandman Mystery Theater is a wonderful comic. So I wonder if they're just going to leave out the Sandman, the superhero version of the Sandman, and all superhero references, and make it a DC comic. Because I don't know. Is Netflix owned by Warner Brothers? I don't know, because Warner Brothers has all the movie rights. So now the old wizard is an older man. And he comes down to mock Dream. And he's like, I didn't have to get old. I shouldn't have had to get old. And then watch my captor grow old and die. No satisfaction waiting. And the old man is I think, he dies. People still sleeping. Daniel Bustamante still sleeping. Unity Kincaid still sleeping. And now the son, Alexander, is an older guy. And what they're doing is they're setting up, they're following the story of what's his name, Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley. So now he starts like a sex cult thing, and they having like sex tantric magic, and he's basically bilking people out of money. He knows it. He knows he's full of crap, but all these rich eccentric people come down and have orgies and do magic nonsense, and that's how he makes his living, off it. But he does have this occult figure still trapped in the basement. There he is, right down there. So he's like, you don't have to be in there. Deal's still the same with my father of power, immortality. Promise you won't seek revenge. I know you can understand. Say something. And he just says, no. So here he is. You can see he's getting older. This is 1968. He's getting older, and he's doing all the hippy-dippy, orgies and stuff like that. Getting older and older. And now the son, Alexander, is an old man. And he just says, soon. So what year? This is 1972, 1978, 1982, 1988. So this is current year. And the young Alexander is now in a wheelchair. And he's still begging and pleading and bargaining and threatening for power from Morpheus. That's his name, Morpheus, the king of dreams. Dream. And as he leaves, his wheelchair scuffs the magic circle. So these two guys are just like, don't humor me, Paul. I can't stand it when you humor me. You know, they're teasing the old man and they're looking at girly magazines. And then Sandman just starts using his influence to mess with them. You know, because the circle has been broken. And then he just collapses. They're like, what's going on? You know, he never did anything like this before. So, you know, they call the master. What's going on? You know, we can't have him die. This is our bargaining chip. So they unlock the door. They go in, and he grabs what little bit of sand he has left, and does whatever the King of Dreams does. And now he's free. You could definitely see the Sam Keith Max art. You know, the style over here. Just look at this. I love this gloomy artwork. I think it works so well. And now a lot of these people start waking up. People are having dreams. He needs to get his stuff. He fashions clothes out of the ether. And again, all over these sleepers start to wake up. They start. Daniel Bustamante wakes up, and Unity Kincaid, she wakes up, and the first thing she says, so keep in mind, she's been asleep since 1916, and it's 1988. My baby. I dreamt I had a baby. So, you know, you put two and two together. Somebody took advantage of a sleeping lady, and she had a baby. This was a good Catwoman series. This was really good. I like this. This was good. DC was firing on all cylinders back then. I was full on DC guy back then, and I'm going fast because again, all my videos are solo. So now Alexander's, you know, going to bed, and he just has crazy dreams. And here comes. This is one of the things the Sandman, like Neil Gaiman's into cats, so he just comes in his cat form, transforms. Why aren't you talking? What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? It's you. It's me, all right. I'm sorry, it was my father. And of course, you know, the big, and he's just like, you know, and notice the eyes. The eyes are all black, and I think they have like a little hint of a star as a pupil, a gleaming star. And he's punishing him. He's telling him, oh, I just got distracted. This was a great series. Legion 89. This was current year predecessors to the Legion of Superheroes, which is 1,000 years in the future. This isn't Block. This is like one of his ancestors. This is Brainiac 5. This is another Brainiac. Oh, it's so good, so good. I'll talk about that at some point. And he, you know, of course, he's shit in the pickle because here he is, one like this god being, you know, and it is out for revenge, and he punishes him with. He can't fall asleep now, so he wakes up, and because he can't fall asleep, he's starting to have waking dreams, and he's just going nuts. And he spends the rest of his short life in utter madness. And then, you know, they're trying to help him out. Invasion, this was crap. Absolute crap. Mr. Miracle, this was alright series. J.M. DeMatteis, I like him. Ian Gibson, he did the art for Halo Jones. The New Gods, which, this was Paris Cullins. I love Paris Cullins. Mark Vanier. Yeah, this was a good run. I forgot about this run. This was a good run. I love Paris Cullins. And I'm going quick. What is this? Oh, the Gamma Marauders. I don't know anything about this. Here's the back ad. And Country Rock Classics. So that was the first issue of Sandman. I know if you're watching my channel, odds are you're probably going to watch the Netflix show. So I didn't want to go into all the details. And that's only the first issue. That's probably what's going to happen in the first episode. And if you watch the trailer, it's almost like this comic book stepped out of the comic book onto your screen. So I'm actually pretty excited to watch it. Now, you're going to say, oh, there's like a lot of woke stuff in the Sandman. But you know what? This was pretty woke even for the time. But the thing is, Neil Gaiman's a genius, so he could add depth, characterization, nuance, and subtleties to all these characters. So I just hope that the Netflix show, because you know they're going to break out all the woke stuff and the transgenderism, which is a big part of one of the future stories. And I know they're going to change one thing. I'm not going to spoil it, but I know they're going to change one thing. They have to in this climate. But Neil Gaiman gave all these characters stories, histories, interesting flaws. You know, he made them characters, so you will like it. It is good. They race swapped Death from being this alabaster white-skinned woman who to a black woman playing her. You know, I guess that's Netflix. Too many white people, right? Am I right? Too many white people. But anyway, This is a wonderful series. I forget. I forget exactly how many issues it was, but that was Neil Gaiman. He had a finite uh, limit to the comics. He had an ending, and he did it. He did it his way. You know, to quote Frank Sinatra. It is wonderful. There's not a bad comic in the batch. I highly recommend it. Now, this is the kind of thing. I was a punk rock kid when this came out, so this was more like the goth kids. You know, so I wasn't the target audience for this, but I still really enjoyed it. And I could see like the edgy goth emo kids, they loved it. They loved Sandman. I mean, every Hot Topic had girls dressing up like Death. You know, Death was the Tori Amos crowd. You know, the alternative music crowd. They all ate it up, and why not? It was a good comic. It really was a good comic. And they came full circle. It started out with a lot of superheroes. The last couple of issues had superheroes again, but for the most part, it was in its own little corner of the DC universe. And I think the legend has it that the editors just said, hey, Neil Gaiman, you know, you proved yourself. Why don't you want to take Sandman? And they were just like, yeah, Sandman, like a modern version of the JSA superhero. So he was like, yeah, okay. And then he just invented this whole thing, whole cloth, you know, but the thing is he wove in threads from other DC eras, other characters named Sandman. He tied them all together. He did a really good job. Now, one of my pet peeves, because I'm a grouchy old crappy guy, is that Sandman's one of those cool comics that people who never read comics brag about reading. Oh, I only read Sandman and it's the best comic. Well, what are the odds that the only comic you ever read just happened to be the best? So, you know, Sandman fans, maybe this is a flaw on my part, and if it is, I'll own it. Whenever I see people who just are completely into the Sandman, I get a little suspicious because I'm like, yeah, this is the only comic you've ever read. And now I'm finding that's the way it is with The Boys, and that's the way it is with Preacher. And I know it's only going to get worse with the Sandman TV show. That it's going to be the comic book that people brag about. Oh, I always loved comics. I always read Sandman, but they don't know nothing about Devil Dinosaur and Moon Boy. They don't know nothing about Dobie Dinkles and Green Lantern and Mac Raboy, you know, to be pretentious. But there you go. I always find that girls who are into Harley Quinn and guys that are into Deadpool really don't know anything about comics. Those are the two comic book characters that all non-comic book fans, oh yeah, I love comics. And I probably just lost half my subscription base by saying that. I apologize. But that's the way I feel. Okay, I'm rambling. Back to Sandman. Wonderful comic. Influential comic. It dominated the 90s. It really did. It elevated the medium. If there were certain periods where the medium of comic books got elevated. First with Will Eisner. Definitely Will Eisner. Neil Adams was one of them who elevated the medium. I would say John Byrne elevated the medium. Neil Gaiman elevated the medium. And, you know, and this was like, I'm trying to think, this is like the 90s, this, Preacher, The Boys, that was like the last era of like classic comics, you know, that after 2000, I can't think of any like really creative comics, you know, legendary comics that'll stand the test of time. Sandman is one of the last, you know, here I am saying, oh, you know, comics ain't like they used to be, but they're not. We don't have quality like Sandman anymore. Neil Gaiman's kind of a preachy little annoying guy. Never meet your heroes. You know, I followed him on Twitter and I had to stop because I didn't want to ruin how much I love Sandman. And I'll just leave it at that. Great comic, worth it. It's continuously in print. Keep in mind, this was pre-90s. This is 88, the first, it came out, yeah, what is that? 89. It came out in 89, before the 90s. So, you know, back when people could disagree civilly, you know, it was a different world. It was so much fun, and the comics were so much fun. And I'm probably saying more than I should. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of the TV show. I'm going to check out at least the first episode. You know, why not? And see you around. I will do. Maybe not tomorrow, but I will follow this up with issue number 8, the first appearance of Death, his sister. Okay, thank you very much, and give the video a like. All right, bye-bye.